Hey guys, video time! So, over the past few years, I've done a few discussions on how I feel about certain jobs, mostly Monk, and the adjustments I thought would be overall beneficial to allowing the job Fantasy to shine while still adhering to the specific design elements and systems of Final Fantasy XIV. As it stands now, it seems like the dev team is listening to these thoughts along with all of your feedback, or we've got a grand case of parallel thinking on almost every point? That being the case, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at other jobs or systems that I think could benefit from some changes now that we've got some extra time on our hands. So here are my top 10 changes I'd like to see in Endwalker. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Boxu.
Hey everybody, if you've been around this channel for a while, you've seen this ad for Boxu before, the monthly subscription service that sends you snacks, premium snacks, from Japan.
Hey everyone, Drak from the future here. Forgot to mention a couple things. First is that our promotional code is changing to DRAK20, which will get you 20% off your first box. And also that Boxu is doing a promotional deal with Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. So if you guys sign up for a subscription below and you are a US resident, you can have the chance to win 2 Fandango tickets to see the movie, which is coming out July 23rd. There are also other ways to enter, so be sure to check out the link down below for more details. Alright, back to the goodies.
So first time Boxu subscribers will get the Seasons of Japan box, which takes you through all the seasons of Japan and what they eat through the year. So this one is going to be the Summer Matsuri, and in that we get some takoyaki puffs. We've got 3 different kinds of mochi. We got mochi wafer, bite-sized mochi, and a chocolate-filled mochi wafer deluxe sort of thing. I'm looking forward to this one. That'll be a lot of fun. I love mochi. It's one of my favorite snacks from Japan. It was one of the things that I always went for when I went over there. And yeah, we got 3 at once, so excellent. Then we've got some shaved ice gummies with 3 different flavors. Pretty awesome. And one of my personal favorites, the wasabi, I think these are corn snacks. Let me check. Deep fried potato-based batter. If you like spicy, if you like wasabi, this doesn't hold back. So that is certainly not all that is in this box, but if you are interested to see more, go to the link down below, check out everything that they've got, and if you're interested in subscribing, again, use code DRAK20 for 20% off your first purchase. Back to the video.
Okay, usual disclaimer here that I think the development team has been doing a great job. I really appreciate their hard work and dedication, and their willingness to hear us out. I also hope the changes they implement are done out of agreement rather than feeling they need to bend to our every whim, because I truly believe they should continue to do what they think is best for the overall health of the game. They're never going to please everyone, but I hope our thoughts and discussions here can help lead to choices that benefit the community as a whole. These ideas are meant to be constructive suggestions rather than demands. Of course, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on what we talk about here, because my word alone isn't something the team should listen to. It's our collective voices that allow them to make more educated decisions. Oh, and while I do want everyone to feel comfortable voicing disagreements as well, please do so respectfully for everyone's benefit, including your own. After all, it's far easier to persuade someone to see your point of view if you're not calling them a moron for thinking a certain way. Now that that's settled, let's get started. First on the list is Dark Knight, since I spent the last raid tier tanking with every tank, but ended up enjoying the flow of Dark Knight the best. I love that it has off-global abilities to use during your burst phase, resources to manage, and the gimmick of the Blackest Night is satisfying, versatile, and doesn't punish you for using it to help your team. On the note of TBN, however, is the fact that you lose your resources if the shield ends up being too strong. While it's already a great ability, and this might be asking for the moon by taking away any drawbacks at all, I think a good compromise would be to allow the Unbroken Shield to deal a small amount of damage to the boss that decreases as the shield does. The way I pictured this conceptually is closest to the champion Leona from League of Legends. While not even Elusive Jump would get me far enough away from that atrocity of a game, they do a decent enough job at making cool characters, and I think this idea would translate well. Second and third on the list are actually still Dark Knight suggestions. Dark Knight, especially with the Shadowbringers changes, has done a great job with building a unique and interesting kit in my opinion. That being said, and you probably saw these coming a mile away, Delirium and Living Shadow are still considered relatively bland copies of Warriors Inner Release and Ninja's Bunshin respectively. As I've pointed out before, similar doesn't always mean the same, and good concepts can be shared among different jobs as long as the flavor of those abilities remains unique. Currently, however, both abilities fall a bit short of Dark Knight's theme of being the edgiest edgelord wielding the darkest of darkness. So how could they rework these abilities while staying true to that design? For Living Shadow, there are 2 options. One idea that I had is that Esteem is summoned 45 to 90 degrees from your current position around the boss, and both of you slice and dice through the targeted enemy, maybe with a big slash at the end. For the finisher, you could detonate your paths to reveal the Dark Knight symbol and damage would resolve. This basically boils down to a pseudo limit break, but I think most of us would agree it's more interesting than what we have currently. While this does imply a little bit of animation lock, it would hopefully be less of a problem than Dragoon's jump animations because it wouldn't be required for the overall rotation or be up as frequently. The second idea here would be to summon Esteem as a weapon and dual wield greatswords for a few attacks. Considering the lengths they've gone for Summoner's Phoenix phase, along with a little bit we've seen of Reaper, I don't think it's asking too much at this point. Gauntlet thrown down, dev team. Now, for Delirium, it's a little harder to tackle. I wanted to cheat and go with the concept about Mist, but the Blackest Night already portrays his essence perfectly. It's also literally in the dialogue of the final quest with him, so what to do? Maybe something along the lines of being actually delirious, drunk on the power you've amassed in your gauge, or giving a little too much freedom to the split personalities in your soulstone. Bringing back the skill speed Blood Weapon used to give, and maybe empowering our edge in Flood of Darkness would be a good place to start perhaps? This idea isn't very inspired at the moment, but maybe we'll strike gold once the conversation gets going in the comments. Moving on. Number 4 on the list involves both White Mage and Scholar. Admittedly, I'll be simping for my wife on this one because the idea came from a conversation we had about Scholar's dissipation ability. Basically, the idea would be to give Scholar fairy wings during the effects of dissipation. And that's it. The goal behind such a simple, seemingly inconsequential change would be to make it feel better to use. Currently, you are empowering yourself by ordering your pet away, but getting rid of your pet doesn't always come across as a beneficial thing for a pet class. By giving Scholar wings, it could show more clearly that your powers are merging rather than you simply losing something, i.e. the pet. It's not an issue for everyone, and it could be resolved simply by reading your tooltips, but feel is still an important part of game design, and I think this would be a small change that would add significantly to that. For White Mage, just change their wings to a halo. Why? Because I know a lot of you were just groaning earlier like, come on dude, White Mage already has wings, why does Scholar get the same thing? I know you did. So, Halo. Conceptually, it still fits the holy light magic White Mage is currently using, and the light coming off a halo can give the feeling that those bathed in the light are receiving the buffs rather than looking like it only affects the White Mage. Again, confusion resolved simply by reading the tooltip, but I still think this way would feel better overall. Did I do good, honey? Are you happy? For number 5, I want tanks to have something to make them more active in the off-tanking role. If they continue with the main tank off-tank fight design, I think having a stance or even a spec to change heavier cooldowns into buffs you could give the party or specific party members would be a step in the right direction here. And no, I'm not talking about stance dancing from 2.0. This would just be something you can turn on to affect your defensive cooldowns and give you more to do while waiting for a tank buster or swap to happen. If the dev team wants to actually give the second tank something to do in high-end content beyond that, this is unnecessary. For now, however, as long as the off-tank role is a thing, they need to treat it like a thing when it comes to the role's design. Or make it like 24-mans and only require one tank, then adjust boss health accordingly. Number 6. This is a definite stretch for the coming expansion, but I'm going to mention it anyway. I want the dev team to overcome their fear of giving us pure, or at least mainly, support jobs. It's probably a real pain in the butt to balance properly, but even if that makes supports really desirable in content, I don't think other jobs will get left out of group content. I don't mess around in Party Finder much, so maybe I'm completely off on this. But the only ones who would behave this way by excluding other jobs are hardcore wannabes or people who strictly want to speedrun content. No disrespect to the latter. As a part of this point, turn Bard into Ranger and give the name Bard to a new job that focuses on songs or vice versa. It's already pretty baked into the quest lines, but I think they'd shine much better as separate concepts rather than being mashed together. That's just me though. 7. I would like the team to rework how abilities and traits are unlocked over the course of the leveling experience. If you've been around the channel, you know leveling is one of my least favorite parts of the game. Allegedly, it's drawn out to allow players the chance to familiarize themselves with their kits as they unlock them. The problem here is that your rotation can change significantly upon gaining a capstone ability at max level, so what you're learning up until that point is flipped on its head, at least for some jobs. You do have some max level dungeons immediately available for you to practice in, sure, but this concept seems to currently work against itself in some jobs. Personally, I would prefer to have abilities and attacks front-loaded with traits to empower them coming later. I agree that unlocking everything all at once doesn't work very well, because I can't tell you how many times my eyes glazed over when taking a new job into something like Bosnia, only to have an entirely new set of abilities just staring me in the face. Still, I think the flow could use some improvements. This is definitely something I'd like to hear more about in the comments, because everyone learns and processes information differently. Number 8 on the list is a proper tutorial. Please, for the love of all that is good, the game needs to teach players how to play. I understand why they ban parsers, even though harassing other players for their gameplay is already a bannable offense, and I empathize with not wanting to directly tell players this is how you should play, and in essence justify someone taking it to the extreme and harassing another player over it. Even though some fights have some pretty strict DPS checks that require you to play a certain way. My solution would be to have a training area for rotation fundamentals like how some fighting games do. Why fighting games? Because some of these, like Dragon Ball FighterZ, may not show you what combos are optimal or different tech, but they demonstrate how your attacks work together to form combos, how to jump cancel, how to chain your attacks into a super, etc. Not super important for a fighting game veteran, but indispensable for a new player. At the very least, a new player will understand more in-depth guides by the veteran players now that they have a grasp of the basics. So a new player hits max level and goes into the training area and starts with a very simple 1-2-3 combo. Note the potency changes, buffs gained, debuffs granted. Now do that 1-2-3 combo with an OGCD weaved in. Note that the OGCDs won't interrupt your combos and some empower you. Note the tooltips. If they have stances like Blood of the Dragon, or Dreadworm Trance, or Tank Stance, note that they're at least important and have them use some abilities while in them. For the whole tank stance thing, show the difference in enmity gained versus an NPC or something. Just teach people how to use their tank stance. Dragoons should try to increase their gauge timer once, and summoners should be informed that their Tri-Disaster cooldowns can be reset. This way you are not telling players how to play, but how to use the tools at their disposal. Also consider making this or a Stone Sky Sea dummy mandatory to complete before attempting any high-end content if you've been max level for less than 60 days. Veteran players get the chance to work out their new kits on a dummy, and new players learn how their buttons work. Win-win. And make no mistake, I don't want to lock new players out of content. They're simply not going to be able to complete high-end content if they aren't being given the fundamentals. As a community, we do try to help, but it's easy for new players to misconstrue well-meaning feedback as harassment over a text-based medium. Number 9. I want to be able to level sync content without losing my abilities. Me and almost everybody else. You can nerf synced ability potency into the ground. I don't care. I'm just begging you to let us keep our rotations while doing lower level content. A lot of said content is already rather trivialized by gear scores even when synced, and boss mechanics are either skipped or largely ignored. I'd be much more willing to queue up for lower level roulettes if it wasn't so painful to lose what makes the job so fun to play. I know there's a lot of technical stuff on the back end that might make this tricky, but if the dev team could pull this off, I know I'm not the only one who'd be shouting for joy. And finally, number 10. Aside from changing Monk's fist stances to light and dark, reworking the chakra gauge, giving us a DBZ bleach style disengage, and allowing us to shoot key blasts from our fists and or hands, I really want our ultimate in Endwalker to be 100 Fists or Meteor Crusher in the style of growing 2 to 4 ethereal arms, Ashura's Wrath style, planting myself in place and going ora ora until I see big numbers come out. Make me stand in one place for the whole duration. I don't care. I will die for my art. Well, maybe that's not the greatest way to convince the devs to add something to the game. I will definitely only use it when I have time, and definitely not grief my party by becoming a living turret that shoots out raw damage. Some of you might ask, isn't just watching your character sit there and punch stuff a little boring, Drak? To which I will remind you that I'm the type of person who mains Potemkin in Guilty Gear Strive, a character that has one main move, Potemkin Buster and Megafisto. I know what I said. I live on a diet of glue, endorphins, and lack of oxygen to my brain. I need this. And that's it for my top 10 things I'd like to see change in Endwalker. We may come back and revisit some of these points in greater detail depending on demand, but for now I just wanted to share some of the stuff I've been discussing on stream for a while now. And don't worry, we will be talking a lot more about Reaper in the coming months since it so closely resembles the job structure we discussed in my Summoner and Beastmaster video, but I want to wait on a little more information to come out about the Angry Botanist rather than devoting too much time to baseless speculation. As fun as baseless speculation is. In the meantime though, stay safe everyone, God bless you all, and we will see you in the next one.